More sales do not always mean more profit. A local business can run a sale, bring in more customers, and still make less money than before. The problem is not always the marketing. It is the math behind the marketing. In this episode of Mastering Local Marketing, we break down how discounts, ad spend, low-margin products, giveaways, and average order value can quietly turn a, quote, successful campaign, I hate saying this out loud, into a profit problem. Before your next promotion, advertising campaign, or potential customer walks through the door, make sure the numbers actually work. Matt Hansen.
Hey.
PNW digital marketing professor for a zillion years. And I'm Jim Deedlow, episode 143. You can get us on YouTube. You can get us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. The 20% off sale.
I got to talk about this.
The
right?
20% sale with Keystone pricing at $100 orders.
So the reason I put that little note in there is this is a problem that goes back years. And what I say by going back years is business is slow. And what is the first thing that businesses do? They throw a sale, they throw an event, something along those lines, and they make a discount, right? And they say, oh, let's put 20% off of things. And this goes back to the days when we had the home decor shop, and everyone's like, oh, when's your next sale? And we were always kind of joking, like, it's coming, right? It's not coming, but it's coming. And everyone always that worked for us is like, oh, well, to boost sales, we gotta at least have a 20% off sale. And we kept saying, okay, but have you ever done the math on that? I'm like, what do you mean? So I was sitting there last night, and I was kind of thinking about doing this one for a while now. And we worked off of Keystone pricing, which is basically if you buy it for 10, you sell it for 20 kind of thing. So I was like, all right, well, let's just do an example of this. So 20% off sale with Keystone pricing, and let's just say your average order is $100. I just, for simple math sake.
The average order is $100.
$100,
okay.
Right? So if you sell 25 of those, you'll make a little over $1,200 with Keystone pricing, right? So 25 customers at $100 with Keystone pricing. I know many people are out there like, wait, that's $2,500. No, we got to take in the cost of goods sold. If you offer a 20% discount, you got to get, instead of 25 orders, you got to get 42 orders to be at the exact same level. So you have to drive 68% more customers just to equal where you already were at. And what I'm saying about this is we literally used to tell the people that worked with us, we're like, just because you offer 20% off doesn't mean you're going to drive 100%, like let's say you have 50 customers coming in today. It doesn't mean 100 are going to come in tomorrow. You may see 75. Does that work out? So sometimes you're actually working harder for the same amount of money by offering those discounts. But I guarantee you, everyone listening to this podcast right now never does that math. They never have those numbers in front of them. They never know, based on the last event, based on the last sale, what's our average amount of people that walk in, what's our average customer. They don't know these numbers. And I'm guaranteeing this. If there's somebody out there listening that says, no, I know every single number, and that may be Allison, who knows. But
Allison owns
the Frozen Garden, right?
Frozen Garden.
She knows her numbers. She knows her numbers.
She spits them out. All you got to do is ask her one question, and it's 7 minutes of numbers. But
what I'm saying is anyone that's listening probably doesn't know all of those numbers. So you're probably offering a discount and still not making more money and trying to figure out what is going on. We sold twice as many or whatever, but we're just not making more money. And it just comes down to the discount. It's come down to profit margins. It comes down to all these different things. But today we're talking about different things, different numbers that you need to know. It's the mistakes that you make in marketing math that will actually sink your efforts. Without understanding them, you're just working harder, not smarter.
This is, I got to know Matt Hansen by coming at getting an MBA just because I was on the Purdue campus, and I just took a couple classes, and next thing you know, I'm going for my marketing MBA. And I remember figuring all of the CACs and long-term customer values and all of that. And man, was that boring. But I can't tell you how often, I mean, we just got funded because I was able to spit out LTCM, long-term customer, whatever. What is it? LTCV, I think it is.
Value.
Yeah. So, and I don't do it anymore because I went into the meeting figuring that out. But
shame on you.
Exactly. Shame on me is exactly right. Well, our retention rate is so high.
Yeah.
I'm not kind of worrying about that as much. But there is one thing that I have not been good at, and I got quizzed on during the meetings. And I think that businesses need to take more attention to, and that is customer acquisition cost, CAC.
Yep.
You kind of push that one aside. Discuss this one.
Yeah, so I see people all the time that are out there running ads, and they don't really understand what the customer acquisition cost is going to be, right? So they're selling small ticket items. I have people come to me, I want to launch an e-commerce store. Okay, that's great. Good. What are you selling? And then they tell me that they're selling something that costs, $5. And I go, well, is that really worth it? I mean, your customer acquisition cost on that is going to be way higher than the $5. And they start looking at me like kind of like that deer in the headlights. What are you talking about? So what I tell them is, most of the time you don't want to sell a product through e-commerce for anything less than $25, $30 because it's so expensive to drive people to your website at this point. So if you're
a hard product,
right? Something that you have to ship, something that you have to buy, or maybe that you're producing. I had somebody years ago that wanted to sell paintbrushes, $3 paintbrushes on a website. And I said, I would not do that. Like, oh, no, people will buy from us. They bought from us for years. They just bought in person. Now we're going to sell them online. I said, yeah, but your customer acquisition cost is going to be so high that you're going to have to sell them 10, 15 paintbrushes, and it's just not going to make sense.
Explain what CAC actually is.
Yeah, so customer acquisition cost is how much it costs you in dollars in the US, right? How many dollars it costs you to get a customer to buy, one customer, right? So is it costing you $25 in ad spend to get one customer? Is it $30? I remember I had an insurance client back in the day, and we were looking at paid search on Google, and the term insurance was like $75 every time somebody clicked on it, right? So when you look at that, that's not for a customer. That's just one view to your website. So if you're only converting 5% or 10% of the people that are coming to your website, that gets pretty pricey real quick, right? Now I know insurance
who's converting 10%?
Not many, right?
Yes.
So we're probably looking anywhere from 2 to 5, but do the math on that. So understanding the math is what's important here. Back when I used to run my e-commerce brand, every single keyword that we were bidding on, I knew what the bid was, what the average order was going to be, what my keystone pricing was, what my shipping was going to be. And I had it fully calculated into an Excel file that I knew I could not go over this dollar amount on this keyword. Once it hit that, I shut that keyword off because it no longer was profitable. It just didn't make sense, right? And we're going to get into some other things.
Allison.
Well, but that's why we were so successful, is because I understood I'm not going to go overpay for a keyword. Let me put it this way, right? So back then, an average order was about $32. Some of the keywords were getting up to like $2, $2.50. Now, when you look at that, if I'm spending $2.50 on somebody to come over to my website, and I've only got, let's call it a $25 order, that's a $12.50 cost of goods sold right there. So I'm only working with $12.50.
Explain where the other 10 came from.
Where the other...
So
Yeah. So what I'm saying is $12.50 was my cost for the product. Now I got another $2.50 for a click, right? So I'm edging towards that total price real quick. So I've got to convert much easier, much faster. Those keywords that I was bidding for that were that high converted, probably 40, 50% because they knew what they were looking for. Those are the good ones. We're talking about like the long tail keywords and things like that are much cheaper, but you're going to send a lot of traffic over. So you're not going to convert what you normally would. So you have to understand these numbers because it will literally bankrupt you if you're not paying attention to it. So you have to know your cost of goods sold. You have to know your shipping costs. You have to know, overhead and all these other things. But with a customer acquisition cost, if you don't understand it, you may be spending $13 to make $5. And that's a quick way to go bankrupt, right? I always say it to my students. I always say, give me $1, I'll give you $5 back. And I go, okay. I go, how often are you going to do that? And they're like, once. I go, why would you ever stop doing that? Now give me $5 and I give you $1 back. And they're like, I would never do that. I go, good. Now we're understanding the metrics that we need to focus on. And that's how I teach digital marketing, because you have to understand the math. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there literally going, well, we go through math in high school and college and we say, oh, we'll never use this again. But hello, you're in marketing, you're in business, you need to know your numbers. So that's why I wanted to bring this out. I've been sitting on this topic for a long time because, quite honestly, I didn't want to rip the Band-Aid off again and start talking about this, because it was such a controversial conversation we had, because everybody always wanted a discount. And we just kept saying, no, we can't discount because it doesn't make us more money. We're better off not doing it. So if you understand your customer acquisition costs, it will give you the first step into being more profitable with your marketing campaigns.
So, all right, you got CAC, you got, you got to know your margin. Where do you put the overhead and labor costs?
Yeah, you've got to understand what that costs you, right? So if you get 100 orders every single month, and you know what your overhead is and your labor costs are every single month, you've got to figure out what that equals to those individual orders, right? So if you have 100 orders and your overhead costs are, I don't know, give me a number, but
$4 an order.
$4 an order, right? So, okay, so now if we're at Keystone pricing, you're at $54 without any ad costs, without any shipping costs, without any, a variety of other things. So most people forget about the overhead and the labor costs. They just assume it's written off. It's not even, we don't even have to worry about that. But good businesses.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, right now I got a guy coming in here to do his podcast. He's like, well, it doesn't cost you anything to just let me sit there, give it to me for this. Yeah. And I'm like,
the 14 lights around us, the TVs. Yeah.
Look at all the, I got people and property and overhead and labor are something that people don't want to always think
taxes.
about. Yeah. Just to do a game. And we put all of it in and put all the overhead. It's like $650, right? And I'm like, man, that just seems so high. And the guys are like, yeah, well, we only pay people like $300 or $325 total. Why is it $650? I go, because think about all this other stuff. All right, let's go to the next one. We started to talk about lifetime value.
Yes.
But, I mean, this is actually, I know you're all over CAC and margin. Lifetime value is we're 103 years old where we're sitting right now as a 75-year-old studio. And lifetime value, I mean, some of these people have been with us for decades. So what's the lifetime value on that? But you have to figure that in.
Yeah, so let's go back to the paintbrush example, right? So they wanted to sell $3 paintbrushes, and that makes no sense if your customer acquisition cost is $30. But if you're selling a product that's lower than your customer acquisition cost and you're taking a loss on the first one, you can actually make it up in the lifetime value. So if your typical customer stays with you, so let me take you into marketing agencies. So marketing agencies will get a client and they'll work with them. And most of them, the average is about, I would say, 20 months to work with a client, because there's always churn in that industry. So we work with a client for 20 months and we figure out what it is they're paying us yearly or monthly or whatever it is. And that becomes our lifetime value. So every time we go in there and we're trying to find another company to work with, we look at that lifetime value and go, okay, is it $15,000? Is it $150,000? Is it $15 million? Whatever it may be. And we go, what's the advertising dollars we can put in there to get more clients, right? So I'm not going to go out there and spend $10,000 to get $3,000 clients that are not going to renew. We understand the sweet spot. So when you look at lifetime value, you're looking at different types of customers. So, there's a sweet spot when it comes to marketing agencies that we want to work with, because they're the people that will spend money and won't ask you a question about every single dollar that's going out there, but they're curious. They want to know. They want some insights as to what's going on.
Let me, hey, Joe. Yeah. Hey, just go ahead. I hate to cut into our podcast here, but you go ahead and I will close it. Oh, you got fired? I could not fire.
Joe's got not an interview, but a job thing that he's going
we are
to. So we're excited
we're right
for him.
By the university, and a lot of young people come work here and learn podcasting and everything else, and then they get rated by big companies, which has happened very often here, and we promote that. But Joe is just graduated. He's been with me for years, and he is. Don't take him right now, okay? It's like, oh, you got one in there. He knows all this stuff. All right. But, back to lifetime value. I mean, how does email work into that?
Yeah, so, keeping a nice email program going. I mean, we've talked about email enough on this podcast. We'll probably still talk about more. But if you are... I'm going to use the word massaging a customer through their lifetime to provide value, they will stay with you, right? They will continue to order. My lifetime value of my best customers when I had the e-commerce business was amazing, just absolutely amazing. They would spend probably $400 a year on a product that was $25, and they would buy huge boxes full every single year, and I'd contact them. We'd send an email. We'd check on them. We just had all these wonderful discussions with them, and they stayed loyal. And that lifetime value, a new customer might be a lifetime value of like $60, but if you start to identify some of the things that make a long-term customer, build it into your email system and separate them. And quite honestly, it's amazing because the lifetime value of those customers was well into the thousands for as long as we did it. So yeah, that's what I mean by figure out a way to have conversations with them. But email is probably the easiest. But we actually used to use the phone. I just called them. I wanted to check up on them.
Depends how many you have,
right?
Because then you definitely don't want them talking about somebody's calling you and servicing you, and then you don't get to the smaller one,
right?
And then that builds that up. So you're talking about long-term value, and there are ways to figure that out. If you want a formula, maybe you put it in the show notes. We had to do that in Matt's classes and in other marketing classes. I just got tired of it. But
you had the email assignment.
Oh, that was...
I used to give him data, and he had to uncover the Pareto principle, the 80-20 customers. And
well, I think you knew what I did for a living, and you made us... And I got to tell you, the 80-20 thing, we changed our business around just by saying, you know what? We are better off just going at that regional advertiser, and that's where we've been for a long time.
I got to stop you real quick. Did you ever catch on to the trick on how I graded that so quickly?
No.
The names were like goofy names that I would put in there. It was like Esther Bunny, like Easter Bunny, and all these other ones that I put in. So I always pterodactyl was another one.
I think I noticed
that.
Yeah,
that was the easy way for me to grade it quickly.
Okay,
so
right.
yeah.
Hey, but finally, and we've had this happen. We ran one time. We ran a $99 a week, and it worked. And honestly, I have this was like 12 years ago. I still have people on that we attracted that through that. But man, people were coming. Hey, I want to buy 1 or 2 weeks for $99, and I want to come in and do my spot. Here's the script, and I want you to edit the script. And I was like, holy moly, we never did that again.
No, so I think what we're saying is, if you run certain promotions, you can attract the wrong people. And I'm not saying those people are the wrong people. They're not the right people for you. So, we used to see this. We would run promotions. We'd run food events, and people would just come for the food and wouldn't buy a single thing. And that's what I mean by understanding the audience that you're going after, understanding that if you're selling a $99 product in a world that's spending $20,000, that you're going to get a little bit more of a needy consumer. And that's fine. I mean, there are places for them to go.
Pareto principle.
Right. But like me personally, I don't want customers that are going to send me an email every single day asking me a million questions. I want those that trust me to get what we're trying to accomplish and that are fully on board. So understanding your customer is going to save you time as well.
Free bread. All right. We are going to call it there just because Joe Cimino is there, but we will average order value, 30 seconds.
Average order value is just, when somebody finally does order with you, what is that number, right? So if you take the last 100 customers, what's the average number that you see? Is it 50? Is it 75? Is it 2? I mean, what's the average order value? So that's important. It's another one of those metrics that if you don't know.
CAC, all that takeaway,
Yep.
Know your numbers.
Yep.
He's Matt Hansen. I'm Jim Delo. Joe Cimino, thanks a lot. Until next time, see you later.